So let me just start by telling you I get embarrassed when people stand up for me or when they wait at the front to receive me, because I kind of think, who's that person they're waiting for? Because he's simple man with a lot of perception around him, but if you get to know him, he enjoys one-on-one conversations. He enjoys being at the farm and speaks to trees because trees have a language. Enjoys to see grass grow, animals being born, and seeing transformation at a community level, country level. But let me thank you for the wonderful welcome I had outside and this standing ovation. And thank you. They call you Lordship. And that's good, Joyce. You should receive it. Let me thank you, Tony. So really, it's amazing. So the year is 1963, about July, and there's a civil rights activist in the southern part of the US where they had kept slaves for 300 years. His name was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. If you are lawyers, you might have encountered that name. And he is jailed simply for wanting people to vote, for wanting Black people to have a sense of dignity, to work like other people. And, when they jail you, they beat you up and they arrest your children and they shoot Black people. So you are in like a sort of vacuum. You don't see that the world is seeing what you're doing. So he takes a flight to another city called Detroit in 1963. He's welcomed by 125,000 people on the street. So he's coming from a place where it's impossible as a Black man, it's difficult walking while you're Black. Huh? That's what they say. That he was arrested for walking while Black. If you listen to the talk in the US. And so he says, little in the world did I know that the work I do has frightening dimensions of success in the minds of people that I will never meet one-on-one. Meaning, often what we do, we pass our eye through it, but someone is watching. So just listening to Tony study and break up the 3-box model that I teach for business, ability to live in the now, because if you don't handle now, you're in trouble. Because sometimes, for some people, living alone is a burden. To wake up in the morning and is tough. So ability to live in the now, ability to dump the things that even worked for you yesterday so that you can grab a hold on new knowledge, and putting your hand in the future and calling it forward. So Tony, I want to thank you. My speech is done. I don't have to add anything. So very quickly, I have had a very busy day. So I thought I'm not going to make remarks, write speech, or just speak extemporaneously. And if you pick some of the things that they say and they make sense, go apply them. If they don't make sense, go reflect. If you eventually find a nugget of truth, live with it. So first point is, I want you to be, as young people, who you truly are. Because all the others are taken. All the other things you want to be, someone has taken them. You are who you are. You are never going to be different. So one day I attended a session where someone was trying to get a passport or a visa, and he's Ugandan, and he's talking to a lawyer, and the lawyer thinks he's Ugandan, and he says, no, Zelimu Fini. Yulimu Fini. Uganda. Do you all understand Luganda? So sometimes young people, we want to live a life that is not what we want. When we grow older, we regret that we try to live a life that we are not. So I want to ask you, to be normal, to breathe in, and to know that there is no other you that will be created. You're already here. There are no new circumstances that will help you become better other than your self-application. And once you understand that, you will face the rest of the things in the world with a calm sense of humility, and that will help you to grow. So, just give you an example. I didn't know that I would be in school because we were 7 in our family. And when I went to P1 is many, many years ago, many of you, almost all of you were not yet born. I went to primary school at the beginning of 1976 when I went to P1. It's many, many years ago. So 2 of my siblings, the elders, had been removed because there was not enough school fees and there was no UPE, which often we think is a poor program. Those are elite in town who don't realize that there was a time when seeing a blackboard was a huge thing. So my siblings were removed because this kid needed to go to school. And so where I did P7, I came in the 2nd grade, but we were 2 people who came 2nd grade in the sub-county and were celebrated as people who had done very well. This is about 5 schools, but 2 people come in 2nd grade. I never got to get, at that time, they used to call it call. You are called. So I put my first choice somewhere in Masaka and somewhere in Old Kampala. I got my call, that letter inviting you 6 months when schools had begun. And so I couldn't get a vacancy there. I ended up in a school somewhere between Kabale and Kampala. And I had terrible time with food because my father, who was a peasant who learned reading and writing in church, had taught himself to grow vegetables, potatoes, matoke, and also rare animals. So we had a kind of a balanced diet. But at school, you are just... So if there's a peasant who grows food for his children or her children, and those children don't have to trek to Kampala to beg for food, you need to clap for that peasant. You think change comes from educated people? A responsible peasant can keep children with full stomachs so they don't have to steal. Do you understand? Because you are very educated lawyers, you think things are so... Do small things excellently, even if nobody is seeing, they make a lot of sense, they reverberate across generations. And so because I didn't have a balanced diet at school, I became anemic, went to the hospital, missed senior 3, a lot of troubles. But something in me kept saying, there's a reason why those 2 left school. There's a reason why people stand aside even when they don't know if you'll ever make it. So you owe it to them that when you eventually get somewhere, return the favor, not to them as individuals, but to the community of people who are going through that scenario. Because that's not just my family. The bigger community was doing the same thing. You look for a boy or someone who is a little smart, you remove girls, you get them married early, things like that. So when I got to university, I'm just cutting through, it's a long story. When I got to university, you don't know anyone. So you know when you don't know anyone, you are fighting with social proof. Who's going to be my friend? Who's going to talk to me? Because when you come to university, there are children from rich families, their brothers and sisters give them vehicles, and they have girlfriends. And all the good girls want the boys who can drive. I don't know how it is today in universities. But so I had one thing chip on my shoulder, I guess, because I thought that if you are smart, you're intelligent, At least I thought I was. Now I grow older, you realize you are actually foolish. You are not smart, but it's just circumstances. I thought you saw the girls would love you because you're smart. Well, people don't love you because you are intelligent. There are many other attractions that get you to have a peer group. So I had a couple of friends, and I made a choice that I was going to teach myself writing because I liked reading. So I want you to interest yourself in reading. The words I want to end with will be that you're a good reader. When we read, books are our best friends. They transport us into a known world that other people have lived and left. They take us into the future that is unfathomed. They make us silent and we listen and live in the now, but also project to the future. Books are not on the phone and on the computer. Books are still books. You turn the pages and you highlight them, you study. So the things I'm sharing with you, I share them with my own children because they read books on computers and I don't know how to read a 1,000-page book on a computer and finish it. You have problems. So I taught myself reading and writing, and I began to write short stories and sending them to New Vision under the opinion page at the time. So Uganda opened up its media space in 1992 to allow radio stations, private newspapers. There used to be one newspaper. I feel like I'm really speaking like an old man, but this feels like yesterday. Only two newspapers. There used to be New Vision and Weekly Topic. Weekly Topic is what is today's Daily Monitor. And so an editor saw this kid who writes from university all the time on opinion and said, can you write and we pay you? I'm really trying to combine many themes because it doesn't matter where you come from, you are you, the rest of what you want to be has been taken. You figure out what to do with this, especially you as lawyers, because our market is filled with very big lawyers, with Mercedes Benzes, with big cars. Sometimes we can aspire to be what we see, but you don't know what it takes to do that. You will break the bank or make a mistake if you don't know who you are. And so this editor allows me to write, and every Friday I would take a walk and get paid by how many words I wrote. So kid who was not sure they would go to university now has an income among peers who have vehicles and they don't like this kid. Starts to earn. Kid eventually takes a job in that same newspaper and competes for a scholarship with 50 people, wins among the 5 and goes to university for a master's degree. And the lecturer who comes to teach this kid has a diploma. I say, so if you are not curious, you could go through life, you don't know who your teachers are and what they do beyond classroom. So I said, but you, how do you teach me when I am much more qualified than you? So when young people ask questions these days, for me, I don't mind. What I don't like is lying about people that you don't know, but ask questions. Have curiosity to ask questions because good questions are a beginning of thinking. Thinking is profound. That's what changes human beings, institutions, and a country. Many people don't think because they like to act, knee-jerk reaction. Thinking is the reason you go to universities. Someone went before you and created universities, wrote books. If they were just knee-jerk, you would not qualify. So anyhow, ask this lady, the lady's name, I put all this in my book, taking a lot of time. Do I make sense, people? Because you're lawyers, you don't want to hear stories after stories of an older man, right? I hope they make sense. And so this lady says, you have a chip on your shoulder. You think a university degree is what shapes people. Come to my office on Saturday. It's a small room. Inside that room, there are 2 computers. She has 2 employees, but she has the biggest business in that town. I said, that's interesting. You have a diploma, you teach university, you have the biggest business in town. I have a degree, I come to you to teach me, and so who is who? So she says, I did what I liked to do. I put my heart into it. I took what was my talent to the market and made sure that it generated revenue. The universities which teach you a lot of theory came knocking on my door and they pay me top dollar to teach you guys full of theory. So that night I took a job as a security guard because I knew university education is not enough to make it. So I worked £5 an hour. So you work in the night, you come study during the day, 4 days a week. So you know you're sleeping in the morning, but you made some quid. That's how they used to call it in Britain. And so I raised £500, began my own business in 1998. It is the start of all the many other things I know about business, because business helps you understand how to relate with people you don't like. Because the people you like are not your best employees. Customers don't have tribe, color, or anything. They just are looking for good product or service. And so, over time, when you grow older, you realize that these lessons you've picked could be spread bigger than you. So remember the two kids who left school in 1976 for this kid? So please be careful when people stand aside and they say pass. Don't abuse that great example of humanity. So I took my wife and children back to that farm. I said, we're not going to live here with you. We're going to understand the economy of this village. What? So some friends went to my wife and say, you are committing social suicide. There's something wrong with that fellow. How can he move you from the city to the village? So marrying is very easy, but keeping married and finding the right person is absolutely important. Who is the right person in marriage? When you agree with your partner intellectually and you can debate authors, you can debate circumstances, you also agree spiritually. And spiritually is not religion. Please mark those things. Faith is not religion. Religion is the things we do regularly. Faith is your relationship with God. When you agree on certain things, then you can make joint decisions, because the raw material that goes into decisions matters for a family. So she allowed. In fact, she was the one pushing, let's go. And so we live at this farm for about 3 years and we homeschool our children, and we find the absence of government in how you deliver services. So there's a lot of talk, but very limited delivery. So we became an attraction for people who are looking for money from us, yet we've come to work together so that we can chill milk, grow sorghum and maize, and make molasses, things like that. And by sticking there long enough, we received a private equity fund that was looking to invest in the dairy sector. And they stayed in our home. They saw, ate our food, spent a week, talked to the neighbors. And there was one question they based their investment on. Are they real, or they are pretending so that we give them money and they go to the city? So they asked them, and they said, no, they mean business, because it's not their words, it's the actions we see on the ground. So you are only you, the other groups or people you want to take are already gone. So stay true to what you believe. Stay true to what is your calling. So I'm taking a lot of time just to give you this background, and then I'll end up with the work I'm doing today. So we received equity investment. We began a processing plant. And this processing plant was doing 50,000 liters until 9 months ago, because when Corona hit us, the markets were shut. And the non-tariff trade barriers you see in the neighborhood meant that you really now dig deep in your pockets, and eventually we had trouble and closed. Life is always information. Gachari mabaga. So don't see people outside and think, oh, all is well. So I began to ask questions. How does a business scale and compete? How come we consume products from other places and we cannot sell in those markets? What do we do as a country to improve jobs by touching one area called exports? I call exports the only oxygen of the economy. The rest is consumption. The rest is just carbon dioxide. So I took, because we wanted to keep some jobs, so when we were building the farm, we took a loan, we had some tractors to make roads. So I took these tractors to a part of South Sudan, and I lived with people called the Lotuk people. They are in Torit, they are relatives of Karamajong, and we spent 4 months together. And I was doing 28 kilometers walking every day, eating with them posho and beans. And then I began to see what it takes to keep a business afloat when you have danger. This is yesterday. Didn't I tell you I became anemic eating posho 1985, 87? So I ate posho during COVID. But we lost 40% of our customers, but the business was saved. Question I came back is, how do you grow the economy? So we took four-pronged hypothesis. We said Ugandan businesses of young people must stop blind trade. We shouldn't get on the market blindly, no research, no trade representation, no nothing. But you're encouraging us to produce and sell to who? We don't know how they eat what they eat, how they pack it, how they package it. We simply sell. Said, no, we now must stop blind trade by conducting basic dipstick survey in the markets we're in. So I'm running over so many things I could share with you by talking about the market. But that's for another day, just for you to get a picture of what I do. And so we got some market orders, large orders, sim, cassava, millet. And then we came back with those orders and went in our community. There is no sorghum, there is no millet, there is no cassava. If it's available, it's a very bad standard. It can't sell. So the market, you as lawyers need to know if you want social stability. You know what that means? Social stability? We judge social stability by income inequality. What's the gap between your richest and your poorest? Go check. The Gini coefficient of Uganda, check. We also judge social stability by how many prisons, how many people are in prisons. You ever wake up thinking, how many people do we jail as Uganda every year as lawyers? Think about that. So America has 300 million people. I divert, but this is an important anecdotal information. America has 300 million people, but it jails 2.2 million of those. 63% are African Americans. Where do they fall? In the last 10 percentile of poverty. If you don't deal with poverty, and you don't deal with poverty by creating new districts or new positions, whatever. No, you sell. A business only grows when it sells. So should a country. And so China, which is 1.4 billion people, jails 1.6 million. There's a research I want to invite you to read. It was done, I think, about 5-6 years ago by 3 or 4. By the Pew Institute, PEW, and it talks about a survey they did in China and America. They asked the question to Chinese parents, are you confident that you would raise children in a safer environment and they will be richer than you parents. 68% said yes. You know, China doesn't hold elections. Huh? So I just want you to think about some things, because sometimes we think politics and democracy also means social stability. Not always. Some work has to be done. They took the same question to Americans, 16% said yes. But that's a developed country with fewer people. This is a developing country with many more people. So you judge by how many people are in jail. Does anyone know how many Ugandans are in jail? It's somewhere around 76,000 people. So when we empty our prisons, it means we are reducing condoism, we are reducing poverty, we are reducing political and social strife. That's how we measure social stability. Again, I digress. Social stability leads to political stability. So you lawyers need to know that the absence of tension does not mean peace. It is the presence of justice that means peace. You understood it? Justice means that you knock me down, I feel confident that I can go and get judgment against you without bribery. I can get some things done because I have a right to get these things done. That comes with social stability, social change that builds bigger social groups that can hold institutions accountable, but also infuse their thinking into those institutions. Institutions are not buildings. Institutions are norms, ways to behave on the road, knowing that if I bypass this, there's a traffic officer and I will be fined, not just waved down. I think I'm speaking about things you know very well and I'm getting diverted, but this is something that could help you understand the challenges you face today. So even when you want to deal with themes like tribalism in government, even if you want to deal with religion and other troubles, you need to understand social stability is the concrete where those things come from. One example, the year is 1860. President Abraham Lincoln is elected, and slavery is at its peak. He chooses a cabinet of about 6 people. His Secretary of State was called Henry Seward. Henry Seward appointed his firstborn son as the Deputy Secretary of State. There was another man, I remember, called Blair. If you go to Washington, there's a place called Blair House. Blair was something, he appoints his daughter. His tribalism is a function of an underdeveloped society and a society that is not stable. When skills come up, society is strengthened to end certain ills. So social stability creates political stability. The absence of justice is much worse than the presence of tension. In fact, it's called lack of tension is called negative peace. Presence of justice is called positive peace. When you combine those two things, they give you economic stability. So for me, we took just in that stability of economy, one area called exports. And we said, deal with markets, deal with standards, deal with infrastructure so that you lower the unit cost of exports and provide cheaper funding for companies that get orders. Why? Because the Chinese who gets an order for plastics borrows at 1%. A Ugandan who gets a market for grain borrows at 19%. You can't compete. These 4 pillars is what I do today. How did I learn those things? There's no terms of reference for export. I don't know whether universities graduate export consultants. Do they? It comes from watch the experience you get. Watch. So don't worry about material wealth. Don't worry about luck. Don't worry about what you don't have today. When you go to a party for entertainment, it will feed your body, but your body will release what has gone in. Worry about what feeds your soul, what feeds your heart, and what memories you keep, because those become the ingrained experience you will use when time comes for you to take responsibility. Am I making sense to you? Because I'm taking a lot of time, touching many themes. So let me end this way. There are three things I want you to worry about. First, your words. So we know the value of words. Words strengthen what we call neuroplasticity. Who knows neuroplasticity? It is the reaction of the brain to the words it gets. So if you like reading and pick new words, you're expanding your brain to take in more, to study more, to understand more. Words also go into a memory in your mind. So disempowering words, I can't make it because I don't have money. So for me, you can steal my wallet, but don't steal my freedom and intellect to think and be who I am. You can deny me a job, but you can't stop me from thinking. That's the real prison. Words also shape us if they are positive. When you grow older, you realize that people who suffer from degenerative diseases of the brain, it is because they have spent less time engaging with words that are positive, or they are reading less. They are on phones and all sorts of entertainment. That's why I started with reading. Everything I know I have read or I have seen people who have done well. Two, mentorship. So we have an event we do annually, and that event has 86-year-olds as well as 18 and 25. What we're trying to show is that learning comes from very unexpected places. When you interact with older people, you are putting your hand forward and calling the future into now, and you'll experience less troubles making the mistakes they made. Why? Because there's nothing new in the world. If you study the problems of your country, if you study your constitution since 1962, if you interview the players, you will discover the issues we have today, and you will be knowledgeable for the solutions of tomorrow. So mentorship is not simply Rwabwogo mentor me. It is holding your elders accountable by the actions and the words that match or don't match, but making sure that you are better than them every day because you've been accorded much that they didn't have. So I had a choice with my wife to go and get an apartment block and invest in, the things elite people want to invest in. Great, great, great to have apartments, all right. But how many people are employed by an apartment? Very few. How many people are employed by a farm that grows feeds, packs those feeds, feeds them to animals, produces milk? This could be partial, this could be anything. So we made a decision that our larger footprint should be in the areas that touch many lives, because someone stepped aside and let this kid pass. Finally, how inquisitive are you? So I want to thank the young people who have come many times to my office. So I don't get tired of young people, but often it's too busy. But these kids never give up. So there is one I can point to stand. The two of you just stand. I think even you. Doesn't he come with you? Okay. I have seen these young people many times, but when they come to me, they want to hear, what can I tell them? What word can I leave in their hearts? Because what you leave in the hearts of young people is more important than what you give them in material terms. Yeah? So I want you to clap for them. Sit down. Because they are inquisitive. Young people need to ask questions. Young people need to know that it's nice to be alone sometimes. In the solitary situation, that's where we investigate our mind and our soul. In a situation without TV, computer, social media, there is growth. Young people need to know not all of us need to sit at the front. Not necessary. We can lead by being good followers. Because those who lead come from where? From us. If the nursery is weak, the trees will be bent. So if you wish justice in your country, good parliament, good business leaders, be a good follower first. The confidence you have to stand and say, I don't like this, is the same confidence you need to sit down and listen. So confidence and courage is not when we speak up. It is when we sit down and listen, because we are not a repository of all knowledge. So we need to hear other people. Can I really stop here because I'll go on and on? So how do young people benefit from what we are doing? We're encouraging Ugandan businesses based on products that are exportable. So take eggs to Congo. Congo is supplied by Poland. Central African Republic gets beef from Brazil. France supplies fish to Congo, DRC. But we have fish and other products. If you think strategic and work together, no one succeeds alone. We are interested in these businesses on whether they can participate in export credit funding when they have orders. Services, law, IT, these are services that are marketable in other countries, but we need to deliver honesty, integrity amongst ourselves before we are credible and believed by other markets. Absolutely important. When I went to a country in the Middle East and I found judges, lawyers from Britain. So businesses go to them to register, they trust them than the citizens of that country. That's okay. Maybe the citizens of that country are learning from these. But isn't it nicer if the citizens of that country are the ones taking these big bills? It starts with credibility, trust. That's what gives confidence. Thank you very much, people. I can go on and on. God bless you.